Hello everyone and welcome back to COM121, Introduction to Mass Media. Professor Harris here. Today we're going to cover Assignment 5, Communication through Audio using Adobe Audition. So we're going to start right here with the assignment instructions. So first we're going to choose a communication objective. What is a communication objective? Well, it's essentially the objective for the media that you're creating. So for instance, if I was going to make a PSA that people should stop smoking, I could do a whole commercial or a public service announcement about that. And the objective, the communication objective, is that you should stop smoking because it's bad for your health. You should stop smoking because people tend to litter, something along those lines. That's the communication objective. So, what do you want to communicate through audio? This should be something that's personal to you or your daily life. So, for instance, my communication objective, let's come over here and develop one for myself. Oh, ta-da, I already did. My communication objective is a morning in the life of Professor Harris. Yours could be something along the lines of, I love going to the caf with my friends, or I don't know, I hate this class. No, you shouldn't do that. That's a joke. But what you could do is something a little more personal to you, something that kind of gives us a little bit of information about you personally. Maybe it's this is how I focus. This is how I get inspired to compose music. Maybe you light a candle. Maybe you have all these different sound effects you want to include for that. That would be a good example of developing a communication objective, something that's personal to you or your daily life. All right, now you're going to make a list of audio elements that will help achieve your communication objective. So this could include sound effects or circumstantial dialogue. So for instance, if you're in class and there's a professor talking, that's fine. I don't want to see you give me some big audio rant about why you love poetry. I want things to kind of come up naturally. So, for instance, mine's a morning in the life of Professor Harris. We have me waking up to my child screaming and crying like he does every morning, getting him out of his crib, cracking eggs into a sizzling pan. Let's see, kissing mommy and Benji goodbye because I'm leaving, and things that would naturally be said. So I'd say, oh, all right, I'm going now. I love you guys, and then I'll, I have an audio example. I'll show it to you later. But I kiss Benji and then I kiss mommy, and it's very sweet. So things that come up naturally. So now we're going to record 5 to 10 pieces plus. This plus is important, of audio that illustrate our communication objective. You can use your phone or another device for recording the audio. If you don't have a smartphone, most smartphones have recording, voice memo, recording functions directly on the phone. If you don't have a smartphone and you don't have access to the App Store to download a recording app, then we have equipment down in the basement of Egan Hall that you can rent out. Additionally, if you live somewhere else off campus, or if you're an online student, you can record directly to your computer using Adobe Audition. I'll show you how to do that later in this video. But for those of you who have smartphones, go ahead, pull up your smartphone and ready your voice memos app, because you're about to walk around with your phone and point it at things that you're trying to capture the audio for. You should be trying to find places that are quiet, situations that are quiet, so that you can capture this audio to the best of your ability. For instance, I'm going to show you my audio later. I use the phone. Tell you what, I'm going to show you a video right now. For instance, with this shot where I'm going to be cooking eggs, what I do is just start the recording, take the phone, and put it really close to where the sound is actually happening, making sure that the sound's being picked up by the phone itself. Awesome. It should be making a little bit more sense to you now. Now we're going to transfer those audio files to a computer with Adobe Audition on it. And I'm going to show you how to do that right here on the phone. Okay, so here we are on my cell phone. This is my iPhone. The process is going to be very similar if you're on Android, but essentially what you're going to want to do is get a voice memos or sound recording app for your phone. If you have an iPhone, it's already built into your phone. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my voice memos. Now here I've got a list of some audio files that I'd like to transfer over for my project. So all I have to do is select one, and I can click these 3 little dots here, and then I can choose share. And when I click share, it's going to give me a variety of options for what I want to do. What I'd recommend you do is you email it to yourself. So for instance, I can email it to myself, and then I can use this audio by sending it to my email and then bouncing back over here onto my computer. So now over here on our email, we can see I have that audio file that I can go ahead and hit download on and then add to my computer and start throwing into a folder. I have my Audition project assets. You can make your own folder. You don't have to name it Audition project assets, but you could if you wanted to have a place to start throwing those audio files um, onto your computer. Awesome. Okay, so now you should have a folder on your computer, whether this be your public library, your personal computer, or a computer in one of the labs on campus. You should have an assortment of audio files in a folder that you're going to use for your project. Now, a little bit before this, you should have decided whether or not you were going to do one of the two approaches for this project, and that's either audio textures or audio chronology. Audio textures are sounds that create a sense of place. So for example, that might be a gym where you have the weights clanking and people breathing heavily, gym shoes squeaking and treadmills and so on. So that's kind of, you're getting an atmosphere of a location or an event. Whereas in audio chronology, you record it in sequential order, like an activity, so that front to back, you can kind of understand the narrative of what's going on. And when you evaluate your peers' work, you should be looking for kind of consistency between the communication objective and what you're hearing, right? Does it all make sense? Was their communication objective achieved in their project? All right, so let's get into Adobe Audition. I'm going to show you exactly the basics so that you can get running. Okay, so you just sat down at your personal computer. Similar process if you're on Windows or Mac. You're going to go to your Launchpad. You're going to find Adobe Audition. You're going to go ahead and launch that up. It's going to take a second to load because these programs are rather robust. If you're on a personal computer and the specs aren't that great, it will also take some time. Many of the programs this semester run a little bit slower, but on campus at least we have some pretty high-end equipment that should be able to handle it. All right, so here we are in Adobe Audition. What are we looking at? It's a little bit confusing for first timers, so I'm going to walk you through it very slowly. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a name to our project. So we'll come up here to the upper left. This is the same on Windows and Mac. We'll go File and then New. Now you have the option between an audio file or a multi-track session. For what you're doing, you're going to need a multi-track session. But if you're someone who's recording your audio for this project directly off the computer or using your computer, then you might want to select audio file. But in any case, I would still recommend making a new project to put all your tracks together by selecting multi-track session. So we'll select multi-track session, and then we're going to set a name for this. So we'll call this your name. So I'll do B Harris, and we'll call this Audition. Did I spell it right? Audition. Yeah, Audition project. Sweet. All right, now you'll select a save destination for this. I highly recommend that you just pick the desktop of your computer. That way you know exactly where this is going to be, where it's going to end up, and you can easily access it that way. So I'll hit choose here. Now it's chosen where it's going to go. Template, we're going to leave this as none. And then sample rate, yours by default will be set to 48,000 hertz. That is a good number, so we're going to run with that one. And then 32-bit float, we can leave that the same. Now this is important. Mono is only one line of audio, so it'll either be left ear or right ear, left side, right side. Stereo is both left and right at the same time, and 5.1 is for surround sound. For this project, we are going to pick stereo. Please do pick stereo. Then you'll select OK. Boom, we see our multi-tracks come in. We have track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down here we have 6. If you put your mouse over this region and scroll with the wheel on your mouse or slide your fingers up and down, 2 fingers on a mouse pad, you'll see those adjust. If you come over here, it can slide up and down as it usually does. So these are your different tracks. These are where your audio elements are going to land, and you can stack these as needed to make your elements fit. So let's look over here on the left side because we have we have 2 options for our workspace. There's many options for your workspace, but to keep things simple, we have, if I select this, we have waveform, and this is going to try and make that new audio file so that we could record, like I was saying earlier, if you wanted to select a new audio file or record, you could do it that way. I'm going to hit cancel because I don't actually want to do that, but this is multi-track view. So we have our multi-track view here. On the left here, we have our project. This is our project here. This is our kind of session, and you can switch between projects, I believe, if you have multiples in a particular location. Down here, we have our media browser. On our media browser, we can navigate into the internals of our computer, find the locations of audio files, and then drag those audio files into our quote-unquote timeline or audio tracks here on the right. We also have effects rack, markers, properties. These are the properties of your project. We don't necessarily need any of these things, so we'll go back to media browser. If for some reason your interface doesn't look like this, as a default, you can come up here to Windows, go to Workspace, and you can go to Default. If you're always set at default, you'll be looking at a similar setup to what I'm doing here. We have other editing kind of workspaces that we can select through here. We have edit audio and video, or edit audio to video, radio production, and those are in the weeds. So we're going to stay here comfortably on default for the remainder of this editing session. Okay, so let's start by learning some of the tools and basic functions here in Adobe Audition. And that starts by adding audio elements from my Audition project assets folder here. So we've got our videos. These videos are numbered, or now, yes, these are videos. Yes, yours will be audio. Just ignore the fact that these are videos. It'll make sense later in the semester when we get into video editing. What I'm doing is killing two birds with one stone. But for your sake, these will look like this. They'll be audio files. You can drag these audio files directly into the program and drop them. And then it's going to ask you, this is great, it's going to tell you the sample rate doesn't match the project. Would you like us to make a duplicate, and that duplicate matches the sample rate of the project? And you're going to say yes to that every single time. You'll say, okay. Now we can see the audio files that I've added to my project. They're in my first track. I can move this back and forth. Why can I move this back and forth? Because I'm selected on the Move tool. That's V. Quick keyboard shortcut on your computer is V. That makes sure you're selected on the Move tool. The Move tool has a bunch of awesome functions. For instance, I can move things. I can move them from track to track. I can move it up and down. I can also trim. I can trim stuff off the beginning. When we see this red handle show up, we know that I am on the, that. I'm on the left side. I can click and drag this to the left, and that's going to cut off the audio from the beginning of the clip. Similarly, I could go to the back side and do the same thing, trim the audio off the back of the clip. And this is really helpful when you're trying to adjust your project, figure out where things belong. Next, we have the razor tool. The razor tool is really awesome when you need to cut up a single piece of audio into multiple segments. So let's say you were recording music in your bedroom. Oh, by the way, I'm using the zoom function on my mouse pad, and that increases and decreases the size and visibility of the waveforms as I do this. And you could do the same thing by dragging these handles up here. This is kind of the zoom tool for your reference. Anyway, so let's say you were playing the guitar, and then your roommate walked in here and started talking with you, and you didn't stop recording, and then you started playing the guitar again, and you needed to take out this section where your roommate is talking. You'll want to select the razor tool, and then all you have to do is click on the clip, and that's going to cut it. And then you can come over here, cut it here, and now if we move back to the Move tool or select V on our keyboard, we have an individual clip that's now been separated from these two other audio clips, and we can delete it by hitting backspace or delete on the keyboard. Now we can join back these audio elements together so we have one cohesive playing of the guitar. If you ever want to undo something that you just did, you can hit Command-Z or Control-Z on your keyboard multiple times until it undoes everything that you just did. Now, let's play this little clip through because it's funny. You can see the video for this clip is at the top and playing in the bottom left. Yes, that's Media Blanket. This is going to make sense later in the semester. Don't be weird about it. All right. Next, we have the Slip tool. So the Slip tool, if I slide this in a little bit, let's say I want to remove the front and I'm going to remove the back, and I realize, oh no, I wanted some of the content over here. You could use the Selection tool, the Move tool that we're on currently, drag this back out, and then drag this forward, and then slide this down. But if you have audio elements built around this already, that can be obnoxious. So what instead you could do is you could select the slip tool, and then when you select on the clip, you can slide back and forth within that audio element to the area of the clip that you actually want to hear. So that's a super nice feature. Next, we have the selection tool. The selection tool is similar to the move tool, but it's different in that I could make a selection off this clip. I could make a selection off multiple clips across multiple audio tracks. And then I could do things like delete, or I could do things like Command Z, Control Z, or I could do things like select an area, then select this loop playback button. And then when I hit spacebar, it's going to play this section over and over and over again so I can hear and make minor adjustments while it's playing. For instance, with this audio clip, if I hit play, we can see that the audio levels are a little bit low. Your audio levels, and this is a rule of thumb for everything across your projects, I will fail your project if the audio levels are terrible. It's so easy to adjust them, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. Let's use a different clip though. So I'm going to go back to my move tool. I'm going to select this clip, and I'm going to hit backspace or delete on my keyboard. Oh, I'm selecting lines, didn't mean to do that. Select multiples here. We'll delete all that. Let's get the clip of Benji crying because it's got nice peaking audio to it. Shrink that. So now if I play this clip, oh, by the way, if you want to get rid of that selection, you can just tap somewhere else. This is also your playhead. I should have said that before. And this is little blue guy is your playhead. You can drag along through your audio clips. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. You can see the audio levels get rather high on this clip. This is my son actually screaming. Every morning he wakes up and cries, so this was a predictable thing that I was able to record. But if I hit play here, we can see the audio levels here at the bottom are peaking into the red. That means that the audio is being blown out. Good job, Benji. The audio is being blown out and distorted, and therefore the audio levels need to be decreased to avoid that distortion, that loss. So what we can do to fix this is simply come down here to these 3 or 4 little bumpies, and we can drag the clip left. We can click it and drag left or right. Right obviously makes the audio levels a lot louder. Left obviously makes them a lot quieter. Now, what does dB mean? That means decibels. So we're bringing it down by decibels. So if I hit play now, we can see that he's screaming and it's not getting up into the red like it was before. By a rule of thumb, you want all your audio at the loudest to land between -15 and -6 across the board. That is a sweet spot for where dialogue and anything else should be occurring. So your sound effects should be up around that level. Now, there are instances where quieter elements should stay quiet, right? So if I've got softer screams, those can be safely down here in the green. But if they're too low, you should recognize that they're probably not going to be heard. All right, awesome. Those are a lot of the basic functions and features. Let's assemble a little bit of my timeline here, and I'll let you guys sit back and I'll get back to you. Okay, I have a few elements organized now, and let's go through each one of these things one at a time. So first we have the clip of me being woken up suddenly. So I'm going to hit play on this, and I'm going to gasp and look around. That's what this clip is doing. It's hard to understand with the noises, but it is what I'm doing. And the audio levels on it are a little bit quiet. We can see that they don't quite meet the top bar where we're looking. So I can increase these up a little bit safely. Sweet. Now I want to make sense as to why I'm waking up. So I'm going to add my son screaming to the bottom of that. I'm going to clip this down a little bit, maybe just something like that, and then drag it over so the peak of his scream is what causes my gasp. a little close, but his screaming's now a little bit too loud. So what I can do is lower this because he is supposed to be in the other room. Sweet. Let's say this was a little too long and I wanted to trim this off. I could trim it right to my playhead. Maybe I want to go a little bit further back. I can use my little red head here to trim that back. And we can zoom back out. Now, these elements, you don't have to stagger them like I am here. You could just do them one after another on one main track, and then you could bounce between only when you need to, like when you're trying to layer sound effects. So for instance, if I wanted to add kind of a sudden whoosh sound effect to my wake up scene here, I could drag this in, say okay and okay to fix the sample rate. If we slide this back, we can hear this has a whoosh sound effect, right? Maybe I want to add that whoosh sound effect to the moment I wake up, so it's all in line. And then it should sound something like this. And then I wake up and I gasp and I look around. Again, all going to make sense later in the semester, but you're starting to get, I hope, an understanding of what's going on here. Now, let's look at some effects that we can add on to our audio elements to smooth out what's going on in the scene. What if I wanted to introduce my son's tears, his crying, as a slow, gradual build-up? What I could do is I could add fade in and fade out elements. And it's as simple here in Audition as grabbing these little squares. So you'll select the audio, you'll see these gray squares show up. So we can select these and then just start dragging. And that gives us a nice little curve to the audio. You can even drag it up and down based on how rapid or dramatic you want it to occur. So I'm going to do more of a slow fade in here by dragging it up and over. Maybe I want to drag that out just a tad more. Make sense? All right, now let's say I wanted to fade it out a tad here at the end. I could do the same thing. And now that fades out nicely. So if at the end of your project, I would like to see you reach the end. This is the last audio bit. Maybe you're done with your song. You can grab that little handle, pull it out nice and far, flatten it out, make it a constant rate, and then you could just fade it out nice and slowly. That was a bad example, but you get the gist. Awesome. Okay, so after some tweaking and adjusting, I have my project where I want it. I have a fade in, I have a fade out. I've got all my main elements here on the top, elements that I want to add in layers. I have those on separate tracks. I have bass audio, which is like white noise, not really white noise, but it's audio that you capture from the room that you're in so that the audio level stays consistent across your project. You get like 10, 15 seconds of that, and then paste all those at the bottom. And yes, copy paste works in this program. So if you select a clip, you can hit Command C or Control C, go somewhere else, move your playhead somewhere else, and hit Command V. That's also going to paste it somewhere else. Now that I have my project where I want it, it's got all the elements. I'm going to include that in instructions so that you can listen to that on your own time. But I want to say this before we wrap up. There is so much this program can do. We've barely scratched the surface of it. I've taught you a lot of the very basics, which is great and a good place to start. If you are interested in learning more about this program, feel free to jump around YouTube, find videos, go crazy, put as much effort into this as you want. You can only get extra points if you do something along those lines, and I'd be happy to see your enthusiasm around it. Let's go into exporting this project and getting ourselves prepared and set up. Now, one of the first things we should do before we export, we've kind of finished what we're doing. One of the required aspects of this project is that you take a screenshot of your work area. So we'll come up here to the top, make sure we're zoomed out all the way, or at least zoomed out to a reasonable distance so we can see what you're doing on the computer. And for Mac users, it's Command-Shift-5, and then you can hit Capture, and that'll take a picture of your screen. Now, if you're on Windows, I have a link in the instructions of this project as to how to take a screenshot there. All right, so we've got that screenshot now. It's on our desktop. If you don't know how to locate it, again, there'll be links in the instructions on how to locate your screenshot. But for Macintosh computers, it ends up right here on your desktop. What I'd like to do is rename the screenshot. You could call it screenshot from all caps from project. And then we're going to put this in its own folder. So we'll make a quick new folder. We'll call this upload for project. What project is 5? Project 5. And then we'll throw that in that so we have future reference to it when we go to upload things. All right, let's get into exporting now. So we'll go to actually export our project into the correct formats. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to do File, and then we'll do Export, and then we're going to do Multi-track Mixdown, Entire Session. Now we've got all these settings. Currently, mine's set to MP3 audio. That is an accepted format. It's going to export to the desktop. That works for me. If you want this location to change, you can select Browse, and then you can choose somewhere else, and you can choose different formats. MP3 is an accepted format, and WAV or WAV, that's this one here, is also accepted. But again, I would prefer that you keep it in MP3 or WAV, and you can export it to your desktop. We don't need to change the sample rate or anything else. It's all the way that we set it up at the beginning, and that's okay. So we'll hit OK on that, and then we can see it's exported now. We can find that audio file now here on our desktop. I'm going to move that to upload for project 5. So now I have both my screenshot and my audio file in there. And now we need to get a version of this project on that as well. And the way we're going to do that is File, Save As, and we're going to choose the Audition Session, SESX, that's a type, and then we can choose location of where we're going to save this. And I'm going to choose my desktop. All right, I'll hit Save, and then I'll hit OK. We can leave all the other settings the same, and now it's exported a .sesx file, and I'm going to also throw that into upload for project. So now we have 3 elements that we're going to need when we go to upload directly in there. All right, we're in the home run stage here now. Last part we're going to do for this project is follow the upload instructions. So first, we have to post our communication objective. So we'll come over here, we'll copy this, Command-C, we'll hit reply, and then in our reply, ignore that, we'll hit paste, we'll do communication objective, morning in the life of Professor Harris. Next, we have to specify whether or not our project is an audio texture or audio chronology. So we'll copy audio chronology, Command-C, we'll go space, audio chronology, capitalize this for aesthetic reasons. And then we'll come down. Next thing, we're going to use our exported audio files as a .wav or MP3. The way that we can do that is we'll select the drop-down arrow. We can select Upload Documents, and then we can select our upload for Project 5, find our actual exported audio file, our MP3, drag and drop it, hit Submit. That'll put that in there. Depending on your internet speeds, you might have to wait a little bit. Now I'm going to hit Enter or Return on my computer. Next thing we're going to add is a screenshot of our Adobe Audition project. So I'll select the image now, the drop down here. We'll do Upload Image. Same thing, we're going to drag and drop our screenshot onto this. We'll hit Submit. Now I see a lot of you guys leaving these images super big. It's super easy to fix this. Just select it, grab the little square in the corner, and drag it down to a more reasonable size. Preferably make it match the size of your audio file there, right? So it's nice and small. All right, we'll come down here and hit Return or Enter one more time. And then now we have to upload our .sesx file. So we'll do the document again. Select the drop-down, Upload Document, come over here, find our .sesx file, drag it over, and we'll hit Submit. and that has been added as well. So this is all the elements you'll need. And then the last part, you're going to hit post reply. And now my post is up there, and you're going to need to go reply to 3 discussion board posts. You're going to analyze their audio and interpret it, interpret their pieces, and then you're going to evaluate whether or not the audio presented matches the communication objective. And I really do want you guys to dig in, explain why or why not. Like, if they said they were going to go to the movies and they included a 2-hour clip of Avatar: The Way of the Water, I want to know why you think that wasn't effective as an audio project. Sweet. All right, I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I hope you've got a basic understanding of what you can do now in Adobe Audition, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or help you guys in any ways that you need. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.